Hi, everyone. The October ceasefire in Libya is so far holding, and elections preparations are underway, which is set for December. But whether today's calm will hold and the reunification of Libya will succeed depends on many interlocking issues. Today, we will be discussing some of them with the top US official, the Biden administration's Special Envoy to Libya, Ambassador Richard Norland. Ambassador, welcome.
Thank you very much for having me.
Our first question will come from Ruşen.
Yeah, Mr. Ambassador, welcome to our country. And I want to ask you the question about Turkish-Egyptian relationship, because you are coming to Turkey from Cairo. And you know that everybody knows that the cooperation between Turkey and Egypt is really very important for the stability of Libya today. But on the other hand, everybody knows that Turkey-Egypt relationship are not going well. Just after the coup in Egypt, I was a journalist just after the coup for 10 days in Cairo, and I observed at the place the difficulties between these two countries. And we know that our President Erdogan is strongly supporting the President late Morsi. And how it is possible to create a new close relationship between Turkey and Egypt, especially for the cooperation in Libya, and you as the US envoy of Libya, what can you do, not of course personally, but as United States, for this cooperation, if it is really realistically possible or very difficult? What can you say us?
Well, thank you. And, first, let me just say, I think this is my fifth visit to Libya, to Turkey as ambassador to Libya, and now in my new capacity as special envoy, my first visit in that capacity. And, it's clear to me that Turkey is a very important partner in this process. Now, you're asking about Turkey-Egypt relations, and it's not for me to characterize Turkey-Egyptian relations, but what I can tell you is, on almost every one of these trips I've made to Turkey, I've also gone to Cairo. And I was in Cairo just before coming here. So 3 days ago, I was in Cairo. There, they were speaking quite positively about the recent visit of a Turkish delegation led by the Deputy Foreign Minister, Onal. And I think it's clear to us that Turkey and Egypt both share an interest, a common interest now with the United States, in consolidating the gains that have been made politically in Libya, in maintaining the momentum that exists now towards a political solution, including elections in December, and including progress on enabling the Libyans to form their own unified military and to eventually have foreign forces depart the country. So I think the Egyptian-Turkish dynamic is very important here. We think it's a good sign that dialogue is underway, and we hope that it continues and that it bears fruit.
Ambassador, as you also mentioned, key to the election process to go through smoothly is the departure of foreign forces. We have been told all the time. So why it is so important, and are you here to talk about the departure of Turkish forces, to discuss the military presence in Libya, the Turkish presence?
Well, I think it's a mistake to say that the departure of foreign forces is a prerequisite for the elections. There are some who are trying to use that as an excuse to delay the elections. But at the same time, it's our view that we should not wait until after the elections in order to try to do something about the presence of foreign forces. And that's not an American position, that's a Libyan position. It's Libyans now who are increasingly voicing this dynamic of wanting to regain sovereignty over their country, not to be a pawn in a regional geopolitical struggle. And we believe that that it is possible to make incremental, reciprocal, verifiable progress in gradually removing some of these forces. Nobody's under any illusion it's going to happen overnight, but de-escalating the foreign military presence will help stabilize the situation, will help the political process, and frankly, it will also make it possible for the countries that are interested and involved to pursue their interests in a normal way. I think it's increasingly clear to everybody who's engaged militarily in Libya that that their interests are best served through a political process and a commercial process rather than through military action.
Mr. Ambassador, could you clarify, because when you say foreign forces for Ankara, there should be made a distinction between its military presence, which is there within an agreement with the previous Libyan government for the training purposes, and with the mercenaries. We know that there are Syrian mercenaries as well as Russians, Chad, Sudanese mercenaries. So what do you mean when you say forces?
Yeah, no, first of all, I don't think anybody is under the illusion that the Wagner forces there are acting as a private entity. Of course, they are an arm of the Russian government. But I think the main thing to emphasize is that this is a rapidly evolving political situation. And what the situation calls for now is a de-escalation of foreign military presence. Again, nobody's under the illusion this is going to happen very quickly or all in one, as we say, in one fell swoop. It's going to have to happen incrementally, and it needs to begin with where it's possible to make progress. And what I've found in my consultations in the region is that there is an opportunity now. People don't want to wait until after the election to create a situation where instead of talking about new forces coming in or forces at current levels looking at each other across a divide there where there could be an incident on any given day, why not start some symbolic confidence building steps to remove some of these fighters? And I think something like that is possible.
Mr. Ambassador, I want to ask you a question about the importance of Libya for fighting terrorism, especially that the kind of ISIS or Al-Qaeda type of terrorism. What do you think about this? That you had already, as United States, you had already a bad experiment in Libya and attack to your embassy building, etc. All of these, and the stability of Libya. We observe that it's really very important to fighting an international or global terrorism. How can you explore this aspect?
Well, it is true that at one point, Daesh had established itself in Derna, and there has been serious combat in the past trying to eliminate the extremist terrorist presence. And one of the tragedies of the conflict in Libya over the last few years has been that it created a ground where, in a tumultuous environment, it was possible for terrorist groups to form themselves. Fortunately, we, cooperating with a variety of Libyan partners, have been able to essentially remove that threat for the time being. And it seems that active terrorist groups are not in a position to carry out their activities in Libya. But our interest is in stabilizing the country, giving it a strong government with its own security forces that can control its sovereign territory and control its borders, so that you don't have the reemergence of terrorist groups. And one of the things people look at most recently, the events in Chad, where fighters, rebels who had organized themselves in the free space of Libya that was ungoverned, some of it with the assistance of some of the armed groups in Libya, went into Chad and attacked the government, and the Chadian president was killed. This is exactly the kind of thing the Libyans do not want to have happen anymore. And it's created a dynamic to try to accelerate progress towards unifying the military under one command. Technically now the Presidential Council is the commander-in-chief in Libya. They should play a more active role in coordinating the activities of Libyan armed groups that exist, and then there should be progress towards forming a national army. And through this, I think the Libyans will be able to make sure that the country is never again used as a base by terrorist groups.
Mr. Ambassador, a little bit, I need a follow-up for my previous question, is that, as I understand, you say that a gradual process is okay until the elections for the withdrawal of the foreign forces, which can start with the foreign fighters. And so Turkish military presence is okay for now, the soldiers. I need you to confirm if I understand rightly. And also, who will oversee the removal or withdrawal of the other foreign forces, as you mentioned, Russian or Chadese, Sudanese forces? How you will foresee, if they don't do, only Turkey does, how do you see the situation?
Well, first, I don't want to be quoted as saying it's okay for any foreign forces to be in Turkey, in Libya right now. The goal is to try to de-escalate the presence of foreign forces, and the more that can be done that builds confidence, that stabilizes the situation, the better. But we have to understand there is deep distrust on each side. We understand there is concern in the West that if there were a drawdown, it would be exploited by the East. There are concerns in the East that a similar thing would happen. But we believe it's possible to begin with some of this incremental progress, as I described. And, we should not wait for the elections to do that. At the same time, we understand that's not likely to be completed by December.
Mr. Ambassador, maybe the last question about the future of Libya. How do you envision the future of this country, a very important country? But let's be a little bit realistic, because there are so many things happened till now. Can you make a realistic assessment for us? For example, we had an experimental example of Sudan, which is coming out of its international isolation after 3 decades. It's really a kind of miracle, as you know better than us. Can we expect for Libya a similar future? And Libya as a strong country, a part of international area, or should we wait for a while for the realistic future and a solid Libya for the future?
Well, I think what matters here is the vision of Libya that the Libyans have for themselves. And just as with the issue of departure of foreign forces, the question about what's realistic is what can the Libyans themselves, what do they want? What can the international community do to support their vision and their desires? On the economic front and on the future of Libya, I think we have to remember they're in a fortunate position. Libya has resources. It has money in the bank. It has frozen assets that can be released once there is a political settlement that's going to last. And it also has a very important geographic location in terms of access to sub-Saharan Africa. And it has, the resources are not just oil and gas, but water. It has incredible water reserves under the desert. It has gold. It has a variety of assets. And so I think it's very possible to talk about Libya that plays an important role as an actor in the southern Mediterranean region. That's a bridge between neighbors east and west, north and south. And the Libyans themselves clearly are ready to play a constructive role in the region. They want good relations with their neighbors, with Tunisia, with Egypt, and further afield with Chad and Niger. They want to see an end to this fighting. They want to see an end to 20 hours a day of electricity cutoffs. They want the COVID virus to be brought under control. They are tired of waiting in line at the bank or at the petrol station. And so the first step in their vision is to just return to normality. They want normal life. And then there's every reason to believe that with the resources at their disposal, with stability that would encourage members of the Libyan diaspora to return, that they would be able to play a very important role in the region. And I believe that's their goal, and that's the vision we want to support. And that's why our diplomacy with partners like Turkey and Egypt and others is trying to put everybody on that page. And what's encouraging to me is that increasingly we are seeing people move onto that page because I think everybody realizes their interests will best be served in just the kind of Libya that we're talking about here.
Ambassador Norland, thank you very much for your time. Hope your work will be answered in near soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador. We are really very appreciating your contribution to Medyascope and to the independent and free media in Turkey. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and congratulations on your work as journalists.
Thank you. We have hosted U.S. Special Envoy to Libya, Ambassador Richard Norland, and thank you very much for watching us.
Türkiye'nin sivil, bağımsız, özgür ve çoğulcu bir medya ortamına ihtiyacı var. Medyascope 20 Ağustos 2015'te bu ihtiyacı karşılamak üzere yola çıktı. Ama yolumuz uzun. Bu yolculukta bize Patreon veya YouTube'un katıl butonu üzerinden katkıda bulunabilirsiniz. Destek verin, sizinle güçlenelim.